Hey, everybody, welcome to today's episode. I'm thrilled to be joined by Lawson Boothe. He's got a great story. He is the founder of Revival Health. How are you today, Lawson?
I'm great. I'm great. Enjoying the weather here in Austin.
Cool, cool. It's not triple digits yet?
Not 100 yet. Yeah.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, let's just start by, maybe you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company. What do you do? And even give us a little demo of your platform if you'd like.
Yeah. Let me do that. So I'm a developer, a three-time entrepreneur. In my last business, I had to interface and build interfaces to all these different medical systems and ambulatory care. And so I ended up looking at the guts and figuring out all about just these systems and out of that came Revival. And Revival just focuses on freeing the employees of our customers up so they can focus on what matters most, which is patients.
Yeah,
And that's what we do. So let me see if I can get our website pulled up, and I'll show you that real quick.
sure.
And just to kind of mention, so we just build automations, and some people call that, in their um, bots or workers. So there's no platform to log into. There's nothing I can show you other than it's a computer program that runs over a screen
Okay.
and does jobs that people do, right? So there's nothing other than that. So let me see if I can share right now
Sure.
and let you guys take a look at that.
So, Lawson, would this be considered agentic AI or some variation of it, or?
That's a great question. So we started with something called RPA
Yep.
as Agentic has come out, which is robotic process automation. As Agentic comes out, we've continued to add that in, and we'll continue to add other tools in. But ultimately, we string together these different technologies and tools to do jobs that people do, right? But there's no platform per se, right? It's just automations or Agentic or RPA processes running.
Which is actually
So
a good thing, right? Because the last thing people need is another thing to log into.
correct. So are you seeing my
I do
screen?
see your screen, yes.
Or this so this is like a typical EMR and ambulatory medical. And
Yep.
this is a bot logging in and actually um, in this particular case, it's handling a billing node and basically patients that are being sent to collections are being automatically marked and set up for the practice instead of a person having to do that. So that's just
Cool.
that's just an example. But once again, there's no I don't have an interface to log into. It's just these programs running and doing jobs that people would do. And we've got I think we're up to around 100 of them now that
Oh,
do
wow.
different jobs and tasks in a medical office.
Cool. Can you give us? I know you did account receivable, but what other examples
Oh,
might there be?
oh man, we do everything from scrubbing claims and editing claims to posting payments back of different types to you've got systems that don't talk to each other where you're having people to
Yeah.
manually enter data between those systems to oh, everything from bank reconciliations
Yeah.
to sending faxes back to other providers to prior, pulling off, pulling off or second eligibility,
Cool.
a
Cool.
number of
And
different
I
ways. Yeah.
guess you just like as you work with your clients to sort of solve different problems that they have, you build these. Next thing you know, you've got like whatever a library of them or whatever you might want to how you might want to refer it. You got an army of
Yeah.
them, and you can
Yeah.
then
No,
deploy them, I guess.
yes, that's exactly right. So we try to build them in a componentized way
Yep.
where if I go, add a sticky note in one system or a task in another, right? We don't rebuild that part of it, but
Yeah.
we yeah, the reality is that everybody's note might be slightly different, or the
Right. Right.
task may be slightly different, or the way that that works. But yeah, we try to componentize them so we can redeploy them and use them um, across our customers.
Cool. Cool. So, what was like the aha moment or the personal experience that inspired you to start this?
I wish I could say there's like one particular moment that um, caused it. I would say I started in ambulatory medical in 2010 and had no idea what I was doing and thought I was going to be able to go. I'm a developer, so I thought I was going to be able to build this platform that everybody would like. And I spent like almost all my time building interfaces to
Yeah.
all these different systems, and that was candidly really, really hard and expensive. And so I ended up, honestly looking at the guts of all these systems and then figuring out that, so I spent way more time doing that than building like this actual like platform that
Right.
had value. And so when it became clear that we were going to exit that last business, actually, even a little bit before that, I'd wanted to start building. I called them automations. It was kind of back in 2019, and just
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to solve our customers' problems, which was these manual I mean, it's just really, really administratively intensive across all of medical and in particular ambulatory. And I just wanted to help solve those problems. So we started playing around with technologies, and I kind of live on the edge of. I don't know if I'm at the bleeding edge, but I'm close. I kind of live in the early 10, probably 10%. And we were starting to play around with some technologies that made me feel like that could start to be done. So I just started building it, and we sold the other business. I took a little bit of time off and went full time on this. And then there was just one night, actually, as we were selling the last company, I woke up at like in the middle of the night and just couldn't sleep. And I just started writing down
Yeah. Yeah.
everything that I wanted Revival to be. And so far it's been, close to, nothing's ever exactly like you
Yeah.
expect, but it's been close. Yeah. So,
Cool. Cool. Yeah, you hear like interoperability, right? I mean, that's again, like AI has a lot of promise in healthcare, but the sort of like the data structures, apparently there's just a ton of variability, and then interoperability across applications is just a really sticky problem. That's like sounds like something that you're solving.
yeah, I mean, I think that interoperability, I mean, AI is actually giving me more hope on interoperability than I've had in a long time, just in terms of being able to help with some data structures type things that I think weren't possible before. I think the problem I've always seen with interoperability, if I know the truth, is that having looked at all these systems, is none of them are built the same.
Yeah.
So to create this, and candidly, people don't even use them the same. So like, and I've actually even built an interface engine before, but like the ability to like match those, even if you create a standard, then somehow you have to get like 8,000 or whatever the number of systems to use that standard and
Right.
then match. So I think, yeah, and then the unique parts of those systems that get built, they don't even match that. So there's just real challenges to that, that I haven't ever known how those are going to be solved. And yeah, once again, I don't necessarily think we're going to be able to like solve that through structural change, but maybe now through some of the computer power, we're going to be able to throw out stuff that it
Right.
may solve a lot of those, or certainly make it a lot easier than it has been. So.
Cool. Cool. So from the customer's perspective, in your value prop to them must be very compelling, right? I mean, there's just so much manual effort that goes into the back office and whatnot, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, candidly, there's, when I look at automations and started looking at automations for our customers, it's my instinct is 30% to 50% of the administrative work in
Wow.
a medical office is, automatable. Um, and that's a big chunk of time. And for our customers, most of them, or actually, we don't bat 1,000, but we don't take stuff on that we don't think we get an ROI for them in under a year, and we share a little bit of that risk. And so right now we don't have a sales challenge. We kind of have a capacity challenge of
Right.
to continue to scale the business and serve our customers. So.
Cool. Cool. And what's your business model? I mean, do you license the bots, or what's been your approach?
We actually just charge an hourly rate, typically the equivalent of an hourly rate. So we're typically an alternative to what a person's doing.
Yeah.
So, and normally we are, typically I like to think we're a little bit better and a little bit cheaper, but better means, it depends what you mean by better, but at least for some of some of the challenging, tedious, difficult stuff, I think we probably are a little better. But yeah, so we're typically a little bit cheaper, maybe a little bit faster. We might do a little more documentation or a little more work or follow the process a little more and not skip steps, but that's kind of kind of why,
So is it
what we do.
when you say you by the hour, is it the amount of time that you're spending on the project, or is it the amount of time
No,
that the bot is actually
it's the
operational?
amount of time that the bot is actually
All
operational,
right,
right?
cool,
So so
cool.
so often we're doing, um, you know, typically they may not end up like this, but in the beginning we are often doing, something very similar to what a process that person would do, right? We're logging in, we're, clicking these buttons, we're typing this stuff. So we're, in some ways where they're outsourced, you know, labor pool.
Right.
We just happen to be computers or programs instead of people.
Well, in fact, because you often hear that these they just have a difficult time like hiring people, right? Hiring and
Right.
retention in these types of
Hmm.
business is very challenging. So
Yeah, yeah. And I would say often people are buying, if you think about where they're deploying us, it's going to be sometimes an area. I think it's probably two kind of mindsets. We there's not I don't see a ton of there's not a ton of layoffs in anything we do typically. Maybe there's some reallocation,
yeah,
but the most people are going to apply some places that are hard to hire for or train or
yep,
or maybe even keep staffed. Or an alternative way is to actually go look at, okay, who are my best, so that's one thing. Another way I typically see, who are my best people or who are my superstars,
yeah,
and what are they doing, and how can I free them up
yeah,
to do more.
yeah.
So
Cool. What about from an investor standpoint, Lawson? Have you sought outside capital, or are you is it self funded? What's your model been?
yeah, right now I'm the only investor. I we had you know we've had I've had a little bit of success, and so we right now I'm investing in the business, and um we will likely raise some outside capital next year.
Yep.
Um, but we had the I don't know if I'd say luxury. Yeah, I don't know if it's a luxury or good fortune or whatever. But we are able to really focus on some of the fundamentals of the business right now, and delivery, and right now they look, they're different. I traditionally come from SaaS. It looks,
Yeah.
it's SaaS like, but candidly the metrics are a lot better,
Right.
than what I've typically seen in SaaS. Yeah, so I think I tell people this. I'm getting old. This is probably has the opportunity to be the best
Right.
business I've been part of in my career. So I'm,
Cool. I guess because when you
so
can
blessed.
redeploy things, right? You can
You
redeploy
can
them.
you can redeploy them. You are able to. I mean, we're able to continue to build, and so there's something called net revenue retention, or kind of revenue retention for our customers. Most of them are happy, so they're spending more with us, and
Yeah.
and doing more work with us, and so the cost of getting additional revenue is significantly less than what I've seen in SaaS, and and then yeah, and then I just feel like the ROI we're providing is
Sure.
pretty strong too. So it's kind of an alignment of a lot of really really good things right now. So
So is there a fair bit of professional services that goes into like the upfront work to get a
there
snapshot of the system and whatnot? Yeah.
there is, yes,
Yeah.
and that's a different than SaaS too. Is that we're having to custom. I mean, I kind of say this. There's no way to automate a medical practice without being able to take into account their unique workflows, their unique systems, their payer mix, their
Yeah.
doctors' preferences, the hospital, the major hospital systems. There's all these unique things that are never. I mean, have two practices that are right next to each other in the same specialty that will have some differences between them, right? And probably even going after different types of the market. So
Right.
so
Right.
very very there's no way to not avoid. What I will say is, I think is happening is you're able to do those customizations so much cheaper and quicker. That's what I think is different than what is continuing to happen as I continue to build and learn. I think we'll be able to deploy and maintain and support those even faster as technology continues to improve.
But I guess there's quite a bit of expertise that goes into really kind of understanding their systems and how things are going to fit together. I would imagine, right, Lawson?
There is, yeah. I think there's no way to. If I hadn't been in this, I mean, maybe there's somebody that's way smarter than me, but if I hadn't been in this market for 15 years, it would be hard for me to go. Or is it 15? Yeah, it's at least 15 years. It'd be very. I couldn't do this from
ChatGPT, you couldn't type
scratch.
it into ChatGPT, right?
I don't think so. I mean, ChatGPT may help me code it, right, or code
Yeah,
parts of it, but they're definitely not going to provide the just all the battle scars and wounds and
right, right,
experiences I have. Yeah. So,
right. And so you had mentioned some of your challenges have been around capacity. What are maybe some other challenges, or how are you addressing that? Is it really like, imagine you would have to like, do you mentor people? I mean, what's sort of your model for bringing on talent?
yeah, yeah. How's that kind of worked? Yeah. So I would say having done business for a while, I kind of went into this business choosing the operational challenge.
Yeah,
I felt like that's a unique, just something. I wouldn't say I'm a sales professional. I'm a developer, and in particular, I kind of think of myself as a process type developer. And so, went in knowing that challenge, and that's at least the challenge I've wanted to tackle, and we'll either die by that, either kind of
yeah.
die on that hill, or we won't. And so yeah, right now it's a lot of what I would call standardization of processes, a lot of focus on consistent delivery metrics around that deliverable, hiring, training, and I, um, yeah, and that is, ultimately we will either, succeed or fail based on those things. So but yeah, that's not easy, right? Being able to do that and scale that and support that is not easy. So.
Is there much of a change management issue on the customer side? Is all this kind of happening, kind of beneath the surface and they don't see it? Or is there any sort of like, I guess maybe skepticism or,
So
uh,
there's definitely been skepticism
yeah,
that has been, because we've had some success we've overcome a lot of
yeah,
that. But I still say when you go into an account, we often have some skepticism in the beginning. And there are automations, and we're completely transparent with our customers. I mean, there are things that we can do that don't require change management, and then there are things that, like, if something, I still run across stuff that's still in people's heads,
yeah,
and we're not going to be able to get, we're not going to automate. If and most common, you're going to see this with providers or doctors, just to be candid, like where
yeah,
there's not a like common process for something.
yeah,
And so if you can't create that common process, you're either automating for every single provider, which in some cases makes sense. Don't get me wrong. And we have some where we're literally, kind of building these, try to make them as configurable as possible, but we're literally having to handle. But if you got a provider spending, hour a day documenting something, it's a lot of
sure,
money. But typically we're gonna try to encourage people to try to standardize around the process because it'll be cheaper for them and
right.
better for them. So to answer your question, normally there's not a ton of change management. If there is, we kind of go in and try to set that expectation and candidly let people know that it's going to take some time and they're going to need to take that on their end as well.
Right,
So.
right, right. Cool. This has been really
Mhm.
cool so far. And great success story. Just again, this wasn't your first rodeo, so you went in really clear about the problem that you wanted to solve, and you had enough of a background in it to solve the problem, and that's really helped to drive your success, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it doesn't mean we don't need to continue. I would say we continue getting more and more laser focused on certain things
Yeah,
and saying no to more stuff, but we're continue. Yeah, so I would say we continue to need to iterate and improve and focus, and as we we're still relatively early on in this business, and still building out a management team and figuring those things out. But yeah, I feel right now the direction of this feels pretty good to me,
cool.
and feels lucky. Like even where technology continues to go, and
Yeah,
as
yeah.
you see some of the things, I feels like we have been fortunate and where we started.
Cool, cool. So just maybe in closing, Lawson, maybe a couple of pearls of wisdom for other founders, especially in the healthcare space.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's funny. I have been an entrepreneur since I was 26. But The main thing I would tell you is I feel like there's this when you go and start a business, most people are going to tell you that it's not possible, and they're probably right. Like there's probably
Right.
a lot of
Yeah.
truth to what
Yeah.
they're saying because your idea or whatever you're doing is probably not um
It's completely
probably lots of wrong parts that are wrong
sure.
about it, right? So
Sure.
I think having the confidence that you can still move forward despite that is important, but also being humble enough to know that like you're likely where you're going is needs to be tweaked or
Yeah.
changed, or you need to like be open to learning and pivoting along the way. I think that's probably that, and just hanging in there is probably like the
Right.
number one thing for an entrepreneur.
Right.
You don't have to be that smart or that just stay in there.
Resilience.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, resilience.
Yeah.
And then something I didn't learn until later, a little bit later in life, is just to fail fast. So I feel much like to that, I'm gonna butcher the quote, but is it like Edison or somebody or Bell? One of these guys talked about all the failures that they had before they invented the light bulb. I think, yeah. Um, and I just think that getting a mindset of, or I guess people call that the growth mindset now, but
Yeah.
it's just that kind of like, even in our business, the quicker we can fail and like find the problems and tweak those, like that's just core to what we do and constantly improving. I guess that's Kaizen type, but
Sure.
but but that is, I'm just a big believer in that. And it's, I hope, foundational to anything I do. And then the third thing I think of, which is probably doesn't have anything to do with being successful as an entrepreneur, but it's just to do something that matters. So when you like put your head down at night on your pillow, you feel like you made a difference, right? And it gives, there's some amount of fulfillment or contentment. And I'm once again getting older, so
Right.
I don't know. I think just doing something that matters is worth doing, and is worth, yeah, it's better than it just being about the money, I guess.
Sure.
Would be my
Sure.
thoughts.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Well, this has been a great interview, Lawson. Thanks so much for sharing your experience, and congratulations on your success and all the best going forward.
Thank you very much.
My
Good to
pleasure.
meet you, Carl. Yep. Bye bye.